Hey guys, alright, lecture 10. We're going to be going over some simple basic modeling in Revit. And so for that, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start us in SketchUp today. And I just want to illustrate kind of what's going to be going on. So in SketchUp, we have, we're just jumping right in, huh? We just have the three axes, X, Y, and Z going on here. And I think SketchUp's going to help kind of visualize what's going on here. So when I go into Revit, I'm going to be starting with kind of the ground level right here. All right. And let's say in this case, I'm just going to be modeling a simple table, just four legs, flat top, nothing crazy. All right. So imagine that let's just lock these. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing in Revit is I'm going to be using a ground plane first. So the flat ground, we're going to start there, and then we're going to work our way up, okay? What I'm going to do after that, just to kind of mix things up, is I'm going to use a secondary plane, all right? So when we're working with the extrusions in Revit, what you need to kind of visualize is this is 0 right here. So if I have a small rectangle here, and we'll just do 1, 1 for 1 inch square. I'm going to turn my video off there so we can kind of see what's going on. So let me hop into Revit here, and I'll kind of get Revit caught up to where we're at there as well. So, come on. All right, so here in Revit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Component, Model in Place. So I'm going to model a new component in place. In this case, when you're doing this, you want to select one of the existing categories here to help assign what it is that you're building. In this case, I'm going to do furniture because I'm building a table, so I'm just going to call this small table. Again, name everything accurately. All right, so here we are, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an extrusion. All right. Now, previously we've been working mostly with I don't know where I was going with that. Forget it. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a small 1 inch by 1 inch square here. And so when you see this right here in Revit, I want you to think that that's the equivalent right here in SketchUp. Okay. Now, the settings over here, I have the extrusion start 0, 0 and the extrusion end 1 foot. So if I was to complete this in SketchUp and then do the same thing in Revit, let me go to 3D view. Oh, did I? Oh, right, because we're modeling. Okay, so we have the same thing in Revit, the same thing in SketchUp. Okay, so what I would do in SketchUp is, let's say I want this to be another 1'6" higher. So I'm going to extend that out 1'6". Again, remembering that this down here, this flat plane, is our imaginary kind of flat surface. So if I want to modify this in Revit, what I have to do to bring it up another 1'6" is I actually have to tell it to come up to 2'6". Okay, so those are the exact same things I'm doing right there. Just think that as I draw this extrusion from the ground plane here, I'm basically, whatever I draw on this plane, if I was to draw a shape like that in Revit, I would be able to then extrude it up and down, okay? So I'm going to work with this the same way that I would a model in SketchUp. So once I've got one leg, I'm not going to sit here and overcomplicate things. Well, not usually anyway. So I'm just going to copy this over 1'6". And I'll do the same thing here in SketchUp. So we'll do a move copy, 1'6". Then I'll select both and Control C, Control V to move copy. Same thing, move those over there. And then in SketchUp, move copy. What did I do? 2'8". Okay, so once I'm at that point, the next thing I would do is I would probably try and draw something up here in SketchUp. How I do that, I wouldn't be able to just kind of go right now. But in Revit, the next thing I'd want to do is another extrusion that would take the place of the top of this table now that I've got these four legs going. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to create and start another extrusion, and from the top, why don't I just do this and then I'll adjust from there. Um, so I've got that right there, and then I'll just move each of these out another 3 inches, so this will become 10. This will become, oh, why don't I just use, we've got the tools for it, why don't we just offset it 3 inches? Alright. Okay, so once I've got that, if I was to then finish this drawing, or this particular shape, and let's say we only want it to be 1 inch thick, the issue we were going to run into is that it's on the ground down here. I don't want it on the ground, I want it up at the top, right? So I need to now tell it to start the extrusion at 2'6", which is the top of those legs, and then I need to have it terminate at 2'7". So 2'7", we'll move that physically up. So anytime I'm working in this top-down axis, I need to remember that I need to think of where the ground axis is and then move up from there. Okay, so now that I have this, let's say that what I want to do now is go in and add a couple extra little legs or cross members or things going on in here, but it's something that I won't be able to just do a straight extrusion, because an extrusion is basically the profile pulled out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to this angle right here, and I'm going to go back to create. I'm going to choose extrusion again, and then over here is an option called work plane. And what I want to do is I want to tell it I want to use, like, say, this crossbar of the legs here as my work plane. So I'm going to go to set, and then it's going to give me this dialog. We might go over this later in detail, but really what I want to do, besides just going with this, is usually I just end up doing pick a plane. And you can see right now this line right here is the existing plane. So let's see, let's do pick a plane, and then I'm going to rotate a little bit sideways just so that I know I'm selecting the correct face. You can see it kind of jumps around here a little bit, and I just want to make sure that I'm on this face right here. Okay, so now I can go to my left side over here, reorient it, and let's say for this I'm going to draw a little bit of bracing up here, and then maybe we've got some bracing right there. I'm let's say 1 inch right there, and 1 inch right there. Okay, so now that I have this extrusion starting here, I have a new reference point for this. All right, so I'm going to complete that, and we can see that my reference plane was that face of those legs. The 1 inch pulled it back towards where the camera was. So I actually can do two things here. I can either set the extrusion end to -1 inch, and that will move that back from the camera, or I can set the start to -1 inch and set the end to 0. Either of those will accomplish the same thing in this case. Okay, so there's that. Next, if I want to move these around, it's always faster in Revit to just copy and paste things once you've got them in the model. So again, I'm going to copy, paste, and I will just use this reference right here to move those over so that I don't have to spend a whole bunch of time redrawing them. And then again, I'll come back to create, extrusion. I will reset my work plane, pick a plane, and I'm going to choose this face right here, and then I will snap my orientation over to this side, and then I will redraw whatever it is I need to draw. So in this case, let's do, no, let's not get weird for this demo. I keep going weird for demos and screwing things up. All right, so we'll do that, and we'll do that. There. Okay. And then again, I can set this in advance early. Well, actually, no, it might do it slightly differently because of the, no, we're good. Okay. So we'll set this to -1 inch. Okay. So, oh, and then we need to copy this over. Perfect. All right. So that's just a super simple way of creating, just using the extrusion tool to create some simple furniture. Now, why would you want to do this? in Revit, we have a lot of tools that do like very basic things. We have things that auto create walls. We have things that auto cut holes in walls for us to put windows in and doors in and all these other things. Revit does a lot of stuff for you in the physical modeling of the building. But there's also a limitation that you run up to, and you can't model everything. And so in some cases, what you want to do is you want to model as far as you can with the tools that are available. But when you get to that end of what you can physically use in Revit, you're going to have to start modeling extra things in order for your design to be accurate. So, for example, if I wanted to do exposed beams on my roof, I could do the ceiling, but then there's no way for me to easily go, here's an exposed beam. Um, I could do something weird where, like, I do a weird modified section of like wall and then put it up there. Um, but that wouldn't work too well. I would avoid that myself anyway. So it would be far easier for you to go in, do an extrusion, model a component in place, start with the face on one wall, do the extrusion, and then bring it out to the other wall so that you would be able to model that exposed beam in your project. Okay, so anyway, let me finish this up right here. So once I'm done, I'm happy with my model. I can hit finish model, and there it is. We don't have any walls or anything in here, so let me just throw some walls in and put it to scale. Now let's not do all those walls, because then we won't be able to see it. All right, so there we go. A very small, simple table modeled in Revit. Now, there are additional options in here. For the purposes of this class right now, just for milestone 3, which should already be online for you guys, this is all I want you to model. It's just something small and simple like this. Um, Now there are other options here as far you can do blend, you can do revolve, you can do sweep. So think back to a lot of the things I showed you guys for those classes, or for the SketchUp class, SketchUp portion of the last class, where we covered modeling in there. And so there are a lot of things like the sweeps where you can then go in and model different faces, or you can modify or merge extrusions together to create cabinet faces. You create one door, you copy and paste it a bunch of places, and you can create a series of cabinets. So it's just think of small ways to segment things out, break them apart, and then combine them back together in order to create something to represent what it is you're trying to model that Revit may not have an exact copy of. All right. So I will see you guys in class.